guys, so we are the group 3 from Bsis 13, and for today's topic we are going to talk about the international law, non-governmental organization, and international organization. So for you to have a knowledge about it, please keep on watching. So the first part of this video, we are going to talk about the International Governmental Organization, or what we call the IGO. So when we say International Governmental Organization, it refers to an organization, of course, that composed primarily of sovereign states. So one of the example of this would be the United Nations, that we all know that part of an intergovernmental organization that promotes international cooperation. Let us now go with the roles of the IGOs, or the International Governmental Organization. So the first one would be they are contributing to the habits of cooperation, and through with them, states become more socialized to regular interaction. So this occur between the states in the United Nations, and as what I have said earlier, UN is one of the main example of IGOs that promotes cooperation. The next one would be IGOs often spearhead the creation and the maintenance of international rules and principle, and they establish expectation about their behavior, and this is known as international regimes. So again, when we say international regimes, it composed of it is a collection of rules and and an international process. With the help of the IGO, they are reducing the incentive to cheat and enhance the value of a good reputation. So according to states, IGOs enlarge the possibilities for foreign policy, and it is a great help or a great instrument for implementing foreign policy. IGOs also setting agendas and forcing the government to make decisions, and it encouraged the states to develop processes to facilitate IGO participation. And with this, they are also creating the norms of behavior with which state must align their policies if they wish to benefit from their membership. And lastly, IGOs affect individuals by providing a lot of opportunities for leadership. And as individuals work with or in IGOs, they may become socialized to cooperate internationally like the states.
Three fundamental principles of United Nations. First, the UN is based on notion of sovereignty, equality of member states. Each state is legally equivalent of every other states. Ibig sabihin, ang UN ay batay sa paniniwala ng soberanya na pagkakapantay-pantay ng mga estado ng kasapi. Ang bawat estado ay legal na katumbas ng bawat iba pang estado. Second, only international problems are within the jurisdiction of the UN. Such problems include human rights, global telecommunications, and environmental regulations. Ito, ang problemang pang-international lamang ang nasa loob ng nasasakupan ng UN. Kasama na nasabi ng problema ay karapatang pang-tao, pandaigdigang telekomunikasyon at regulasyon sa kapaligiran. Third and last, the UN is designed primarily to maintain international peace and security. States should be refrain from the threat of use of force and settle disputes through peaceful means. Pangatlo at panghuli, ibig sabihin ang UN ay pangunahin din sa inyo upang mapanatili ang pandaigdigang kapayapaan or world peace at seguridad. Dapat pigilin ng mga estado ang banta sa paggamit ng puwersa at ayusin ng mga pagtatalo sa pamamagitan ng mapayapang pamamaraan.
The United Nations is divided into 6 main parts or structures. The first one is the General Assembly, which includes all internationally recognized countries, making up with 193 member states. It debates upon the issue of security and diplomacy. The second arm of the United Nations is the Security Council. It exists to prevent conflicts on a large scale and promotes peace. It only has 5 permanent members, which is Russia, UK, US, China, and France. One of the most important structures or parts of the UN is the Economic and Social Council because it works to improve the standard of living and promotes human rights. The fourth one is the judicial arm of the United Nations or the International Court of Justice. This is where internal law violations are prosecuted and debated. The fifth arm of the United Nations is the Trusteeship Council that was created in 1940s. It helps developing territories and dependencies to become an independent countries. And finally, the Secretariat is the essentially internal administrative workings in the United Nations. They are the ones who compile the reports and communicate between different councils. United Nations peacekeeping was born at a time of Cold War. Peacekeeping was primarily limited to maintaining ceasefires and stabilizing solutions on the ground, providing crucial supports for political efforts to resolve conflicts by peaceful means. Traditional peacekeeping. These military units are drawn from small, neutral member states invited by the disputants and primarily address the interstate conflicts. Complex peacekeeping. Activity respond to civil war and ethno-nationalist conflicts by the states that have not requested UN assistance.
So, hi guys, I'm Jersey Simingote, and I'm here to discuss about non-governmental organization or NGOs. NGOs are generally private, voluntary organizations whose members are individuals or associations that come together to achieve a common purpose. The term originated from the United Nations and is normally used to refer to organizations that are not a part of the government and are not conventional for the profit business. In the cases in which NGOs are funded totally or partially by government, the NGO maintains its non-governmental status by excluding government representative from the membership in the organization. Some are organized around specific issues such as human rights, environment, or health. Some are organized around specific issues such as human rights, environment, or health. And next, the growth of NGO and influence. The growth of NGOs really took off after the Second World War II, with about 90 international NGOs founded each year, compared with about 10 each year in the 1890s. Only about 30% of early international NGOs have survived, although those organizations founded after the wars have had a better survival rate. During the 1970s, network and coalition were formed among various groups, and by the 1990s, these NGOs were able to effectively mobilize the mass public and influence international relations. The anti-slavery campaign was one of the earliest NGO-initiated efforts to organize transnationally to ban a morally unacceptable process. NGO organizing on behalf of peace and non-coercive methods of dispute settlement also appeared during the 80s, and the Red Cross, which advocated for the treatment for the wounded soldiers.
Functions and roles of non-government organizations. First, non-government organizations act as advocate of specific policies and offer alternative channels of political participation, as Amnesty International has done. Amnesty International is a global movement of more than 7 million people in over 150 countries and territories who campaign to end abuses of human rights, such as bringing torturers to justice and change oppressive laws. Second, they mobilize mass publics as Greenpeace did in saving the whales. On April 27, 1975, Greenpeace launched the world's first anti-whaling campaign from the docks of Vancouver. The mission would become the spark that ignited as a global Save the Whales movement and eventually helped secure an international ban on commercial whaling. Third, non-government organizations distributes critical assistance in disaster relief and to refugees as Oxfam has done. Oxfam is a committee, comes from Oxfam Committees for Famine Relief, founded in Britain in 1942, and the Oxfam International was founded in 1995. Non-government organizations are the principal monitors of human rights norms and environmental regulations and provide warnings of violations as Human Rights Watch has done. In Philippines, we have our Philippine Alliance of Human Rights Advocates as human rights non-government organization working with a mission to develop a strong, progressive, dynamic, and pluralist human rights movement that engages the state to comply with its human rights obligations and non-state actors to fulfill their human rights responsibilities. Non-government organizations are the primary actors at the grassroots level in mobilizing individuals to act. Their impact was felt strongly at the 1992 UN Conference on the Environment and Development. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development was established in 1964 as a permanent intergovernmental body. UNCTAD is a part of the United Nations Secretariat dealing with trade, investment, and development issues. For the first time, they made statements from the floor during official meetings, drafted information materials, and scrutinized UN documents. 6. At the national level, non-government organizations have occasionally taken the place of states, either performing services that are inept or corrupt government is not stepping in for a failed state. Non-government organizations seldom work alone. The communications revolution has served to link non-government organizations formally and informally to each other. The communication revolution is a development of the internet 50 years later. It is remarkable acceleration of transport, travel, and communication, which started about 1760. Non-government organizations may also be formed for malevolent purposes. The mafia, international drug cartels, and even Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda's ultimate goal is to overthrow the corrupt apostate regimes in the Middle East and replace them with true Islamic governments. Al-Qaeda's primary enemy is the US, which it sees as the root cause of the Middle East problems.
International law. International law consists of a body of both rules and norms, regulating interactions among states, between states and egos, and among egos, states and individuals. At the state level, law is hierarchical. Established structure exists for both making law and enforcing law, and law binds individuals and groups within the state. There is widespread compliance with the law because it is in the interest of everyone that order be maintained. In the international system, authoritative structures are absent. Nonetheless, liberals acknowledge that international law exists and has an effect in daily life, such as airspace, trade, and shipping regulations.